Live like Jesus. Be gracious in speech. Colossians 4 verse 6 reads, "Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person." Paul's letter to the Colossians can be divided into two main sections, the second of which focuses on the Christian life. Before giving his final greeting, he wrote these last instructions to the Colossian church. Let your speech always be gracious. The Greek word translated to gracious is charis. Strong defines this word in this way: of the merciful kindness by which God, exerting his holy influence upon souls, turns them to Christ, keeps, strengthens, increases them in Christian faith, knowledge, affection, and kindles them to the exercise of the Christian virtues. As believers, our speech should reflect the truth of the gospel and its transforming work in our lives. Every conversation is an opportunity to put our faith into action by living out Christ. Paul uses a metaphor to help us better understand this concept. Our speech should be seasoned with salt. Without salt, food tastes bland and boring, but with it, salt adds flavor. How should the fact that Christ lives inside of us bring a different flavor to our interactions? Taking earlier from Strong's definition of grace, charis, our interactions should build others up. Our lips should share and defend the gospel. They should be kind. And the words which come out of our mouths, the mouths of Christians, should impact those around us for the better. In the verse right before this, Paul tells the Colossians to walk in wisdom towards outsiders. And it is likely these outsiders who Paul has in mind when he tells us to let our speech be gracious, so that we would know how to answer each person. In this letter, Paul is writing to the Colossian church, and outsiders likely refers to those outside the church, unbelievers. The most gracious, merciful, kindest words that we can share with an unbeliever are the words of the gospel. Romans 10:14-17 reads, "How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. But they have not all obeyed the gospel. For Isaiah says, 'Lord, who has believed what he has heard from us?' So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ." Proverbs 16:24 reads, "Gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body." Let's speak words of grace and kindness, leaving a taste of God's love in every conversation. This is Timothy, to the ends, by his grace and for his glory.